Let me say something a little controversial. You want to lose control of the narrative. You don't want to lose control of the realistic reactions of the NPCs or the way that the world responds to the out of controlness, but you want the story to go off the rails because this is not a story that should have been planned ahead of time. This is a story that's being created in real time collaboratively with you and these other creative people. So if you are faced with situations in your games coming up this week or next week or the month later where your players are outmaneuvering you, outthinking you, outcreating you, coming up with better ideas than you, world building better than you, do not let this ding your ego. Do not let this make you think, oh, you're not a good game master. Instead, celebrate this. Build upon it and say, yes, we are actually getting something. Hello friends, GM Philosopher here. Welcome back to another episode of GM Philosophy. This is the channel where we empower game masters to run better games. I want to talk to you a little bit today about how the sum of the whole in a D&D game or any TTRPG game is better than the sum of its individual parts. A lot of times when the players and the game master get together, you end up with a lot more talent than just if you were to add everyone's talent together. It fits together. It creates something bigger than just the sum of its individual parts. Now, I run 5 professional games and 1 friends and family game. I am a certain level talented, right? And I should clarify, I believe this conversation is important because I want game masters to understand 2 things from this video. I want them to understand that they don't have to be perfect and that it's okay and normal to actually rely on their players to help make the whole game experience better. And number 2, I do not want game masters to be like weirded out by the fact that they might need their players in order to make the game really pop, okay? Both of these things are true, and so this is what I want to talk about. Now, I have a group of gamers in each one of these games, and they all have their own styles. They all bring their own unique talents to the game, right? Now, I'm kind of a creative guy, right? I've been running games for over 24 years. I am no stranger to making a D&D game run, making it fun, etc. And I think my accolades speak for that. Guys, you're going to hear a bunch of jingling in the background. My dogs are being loud today, so just bear with me. My doggos are hanging out with me today. I am no stranger to, making a D&D game run great. I'm pretty good at improvising. I'm pretty good at building lore. I'm pretty good at world building, storytelling, creating immersive NPCs. I'd say I'm relatively good at all these things. Am I the best in the game? Well, maybe. Maybe I am. I don't know. Probably not the absolute best in the whole world. There's always somebody who's developed their skills a little bit more, right? With that being said, I'm pretty confident in my abilities, and I think the accolades speak for that. I have filled 5 pro games with players who seem very enthusiastic, and I have a pretty good track record at this point of keeping good players in the game and learning, adapting to this pro game environment, okay? And if you want to check out some of my pro games, I've just listed some new ones. I'm running some Morkborg campaigns. You can find links to that in the description. You can also find a link in the description to my GM Philosophy Discord. And if you want to schedule, this is a new thing I'm offering. If you want to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me to just have a conversation about whatever you'd like, link to that is in the description as well. But here's something that I have noticed. A lot of times my players will think of things I didn't think of. For example, in one of my recent sessions, I had 2 players who had pretty important lore from their backstories to go through. They were going to kind of bring that up into the campaign. And both of them were pretty in-depth. And one of the players wasn't going to be there the next week because they're going on vacation. And one of my other players, shout out to Vince/Daedalus, he actually brought up in the beginning of the session above table, hey, since Alex isn't going to be here next week, maybe we should do his backstory stuff today, focus on it, and then do my stuff next week. I hadn't even thought of this. This hadn't even occurred to me. This was a great idea that he brought up. And it was like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it, right? Now, here's what I mean by this. I think that it's possible that some game masters might feel like, oh no, if I'm not always thinking of it before the players, If I don't think of everything, then I'm some kind of failure. If I don't, think about all of the good ideas before the players do, then maybe I'm not doing a good enough job. Maybe it means I'm not good at being a game master. Maybe my players are better at this than I am. And this can create insecurity, I think, right? Now, and the reason I say this is because there would have been a time in my game master career, my game master journey, where I would have certainly felt this way. I would have felt like players coming up with better ideas than me might have been a threat to my ego, right? Now, I don't feel like that today because I've done a lot of work on myself and I've developed myself. I've developed my own confidence level. I've developed my skills, and I've just come to a place of higher wisdom about the craft in general. And this has led me to the understanding, the truth that when you bring a lot of creative people together, it is completely insane to think that they are not going to think of things that you haven't thought of. It would be insane to think that you can outthink this whole group of other talented people, unless they're just a bunch of, there's a bunch of dummy bags. But that's not usually the case. Usually it is creative people who are engaging in TTRPGs. Usually these people are storytellers. They are also world builders. Even if they're doing it for one character instead of a whole world, this is a very creative endeavor in itself. And still, there are a lot of players who have also run games. So you also have world building skills on a bigger level in those types of scenarios. So what you have here is you have the truth that is really important to understand, which is the makeup of the table, the great sum of it all is greater than the sum of its individual parts. We feed off of each other's creativity. We bounce off of each other's creative ideas. We create on top of the framework laid by the person sitting next to us, or in virtually sitting next to us, right? And so if you are a game master who regularly has your players maybe coming up with ideas you didn't think of, understanding things better than you would have understood them, suggesting things, thinking that maybe you've even already thought of them, and then thinking, oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. That is wild. What a good idea. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I thinking about these things? We, as game masters, have to understand that one of the most important roles that we serve at the table is that of community builder, community organizer, community host. Yes, we are creating this world to a point around our player characters. Yes, we're introducing other characters. Yes, we are running the NPCs and the villains. We are the ones filling the inventory of the shops and describing the picturesque landscape that they see when they climb over the top of the mountain. However, the actual storytellers are the players themselves. And so when the game master can take a step back and allow the player characters to actually tell the story, to take the mantle of storyteller upon themselves and to move forward with it. And when the game master can not only be wise enough to do what they need to do, but pull back on the rest of it, let the players take control, but also that they can learn not to let this ding their ego. They don't have to outthink their players. If you try too hard to outthink your players, you are moving into game master versus player mentality. This is no good. Rather, you should let your players be amazing. Let their characters do amazing things. Let them think about things that you wouldn't have thought about. And instead of thinking, oh no, I'm a bad GM, you should instead celebrate this and think, oh yes, we have some really great group synergy going. We are group storytelling now. And that's what it is. It's about group storytelling. It is about coming together to tell a greater story collaboratively than any one of us could tell by ourselves. If that is the result of what's going on at your table, then friend, you are having very creative, very successful storytelling going on in your space, in your community. And guess what? That is actually one of the hallmarks of being a great game master. Never forget, what is the goal of a game master? What is the actual goal? To empower your players to enjoy telling the best story of their characters possible. And if this is being done correctly, your players are going to overthink you. They are going to outmaneuver you. They're going to out-create you because guess what? As long as everything is like going pretty well, as long as, like I said, you're not playing with a bunch of dumb bags, the truth is there is no way you could outthink your players. There is no way you could outcreate your characters unless you're holding them back somehow, which is what I think railroading GMs do. I think railroading GMs, they try to stifle that creativity so they do not lose control of the narrative. But game masters, let me tell you something. Let me say something a little controversial. You want to lose control of the narrative. You don't want to lose control of the realistic reactions of the NPCs or the way that the world responds to the out of controlness, but you want the story to go off the rails because this is not a story that should have been planned ahead of time. This is a story that's being created in real time collaboratively with you and these other creative people. So if you are faced with situations in your games coming up this week or next week or the month later where your players are outmaneuvering you, outthinking you, outcreating you, coming up with better ideas than you, world building better than you, do not let this ding your ego. Do not let this make you think, oh, you're not a good game master. Instead, celebrate this, build upon it and say, yes, we're actually getting somewhere. This is amazing. Because if you are to the point where you are letting your players have this much control over the stories of their characters, then you are probably going in a very good direction. You are probably greatly succeeding at your craft, and they are probably really enjoying it way more than they would be if you were trying to put some kind of stifling reins on it, okay? And that's the mission today, guys. That's what I had to say today on this one. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy. Drop me a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree, okay? I will look forward to hearing your perspectives. I will see you amazing people on the next one.